One of the biggest problems with Rime of the Frostmaiden is its almost complete lack of compelling NPC allies. What we wanted to do with this supplement is add some fun allies in for your party. People with compelling backstories, goals that tie into the adventure or lead them to interesting places across the Dale. What we've done is we've created 10 NPC allies, one for each of the 10 towns that your party can meet, interact with, and take along their journeys. We've presented 5 here in our video, and you can find 5 more over on our Patreon. We'll get to that in just a second. But first up, let's introduce you to our first NPC ally. First up, we have a fellow named Baronon Whiteharrow. This is a rugged middle-aged adventurer, explorer extraordinaire who's come up from Neverwinter Academy. He's been sent here on a grant to study Aural's eternal winter and what's going on with the sun never rising. He's over in Bryn Shander, kicking it back at an inn, tossing his gold around, keeping himself warm and fed. Now, despite his cushy surroundings, Baronon is no slouch when it comes to surviving in the cold wilderness. He's got advantage on any check to find or create shelter within any wilderness environment. So if you're out there exploring, he's a great person to have at your back. He is also a great person to have in combat. He's survived a lot of scrapes over the years by the point of his rapier, so he can definitely hold his own against any threat that the Dale can throw at your party. Anybody trying to find out more about Aural's eternal winter is going to pique Baronon's interest. His efforts have failed so far, so he is perfectly willing to attach himself to any adventuring party that is going to go out there and help him achieve his goals. Now, Baronon does not get along with another researcher that's in the area, Tali. We've expanded Tali's character and given them a surname, Artrano. You'll find out more about Tali later on in this video, so stay tuned. Next up, we have Esther Tarsanel. She can be found over in Targos. I like to call her Spectre Esther. She is, of course, an undead specter that your party can ally themselves with. Esther was the first of the human sacrifices that the larger towns made to Aural. She died before Aural's magic could turn her into a cold light walker, so she ended up being, well, you know, tied to the material plane, and she's been here ever since. It's been about a year or so, and she just can't seem to leave. She's got some unfinished business that she isn't quite sure what it is. In fact, it is the abolishment of human sacrifices throughout 10 towns. Once that's achieved, Esther's soul can find rest, but figuring out what her unfinished business is entirely up to your party. Esther is survived by her husband Owen and her daughter Stefania. Owen is, of course, Owen Tarsanel from the module. He's the proprietor of the Luskan Arms. The module describes him as depressed by the ongoing winter. We're going to go ahead and change that to he's depressed because his wife was a sacrifice. Esther, she remembers her life, and she remembers Owen and Stefania, but she does not want to interact with these people. She doesn't want to cause them any more distress. She's seen them from afar, of course. She's taken the opportunity to kind of spy on them and know that they're okay, but she doesn't want anything to do with them. So what your party is going to do with that, I don't know. I'd love to hear it. If your party decides to ally with Esther, tell me all about it in the description down below. Esther can be found in the Ash Quarter of Targos, which is an area that we've added back in from previous lore. You can find all about the Ash Quarter and our other expansions to Targos in our upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. Our next ally is named Lone Bear. She's a Goliath that you can find in Tourmaline, acting as a bounty hunter or as an enforcer for the Speaker of the town. Now, the Speaker, as you may know, is short on political allies, so he uses Lone Bear as protection or as enforcement. She kind of helps him cement his political position. Now, Lone Bear towers above all of the other people in Tourmaline, and if that's not enough to make her stand out, she's often seen bearing her arms in the cold, frigid winter, much to, you know, the dismay of other people who don't know that Goliaths can withstand cold. But Lone Bear is really tired of being around Tourmaline. She's bored. She's been here for 6 years, ever since she was kicked out of the Sky Tower shelter for accidentally killing another Goliath. She's been cast out, she's been disgraced, and her main goal is to get back in the tribe's good graces. So if your party can do that, she'd be eternally grateful. But if they can at least offer her some measure of interesting adventure, she'd be happy to come along with them. Next up, we have a fellow that I'm calling Albert the Owlbear. He's an awakened owlbear created by the frost druid Ravison. Now, if you don't know, Ravison is responsible for all of the other goings-on with talking animals here and there across the Dale. There's way too many talking animals in this module, I think, but you know what? I'm gonna roll with it. And here we have Albert. Unlike the white moose over in Lonelywood or the plesiosaur in Bremen, Albert shirked Ravison's influence as quickly as he could, and then he set out on his own and into 10 towns. He wanted to make friendly with the humans there and maybe find his place within society. Albert's encounters with the residents of 10 towns were anything but peaceful. They shouted at him and screamed and chased him off with pitchforks and the occasional torch. Now, after all but giving up on his attempts to ingratiate himself to the population, he finds himself in the ruins of Caer Konig. This has inspired a lot of rumors around 10 towns about an owlbear that speaks, that is haunting around Caer Konig and killing passersby. He is, of course, doing nothing of the sort. He's a pretty peaceful guy, but he is willing to defend himself if necessary. Luckily, that hasn't happened yet, but it's only a matter of time before the 10 towners decide to take matters into their own hands. Now, if your party sidles up to Caer Konig, they can probably make friends with Albert pretty easily. He's a friendly guy. He just wants to make friends, and that's really all he wants to do. He wants to find a place within society. If your party can help him do that, they've got a very powerful ally on their hands. Next up, we have Tali, the researcher that you can find over in Bremen. We've given Tali the surname of Artrano because, well, they didn't have a surname before and we felt like adding one. So here we are. Tali Artrano. Meet the players, players meet Tali Artrano. Tali hails from the College of Olem in Waterdeep. Now, the college is a bardic college, of course, so we've given Tali a bard stat block. Tali's here to study the flora and the fauna and the effects of the eternal winter on all of that. Now, one of the places that you will meet Tali is, of course, Bremen. If you haven't checked out our Bremen video, go ahead and do that now. There's a lot of great stuff there for you. Of course, Tali is there and they want to study the lake monster, the plesiosaur that has been sinking boats. As we stated in the Bremen video, if your party can help the plesiosaur stop sinking the boats and get to that in a peaceful way, Tali is very grateful and they decide to hire on the party as sort of a protection party, a research party, if you will. They'll pay 10 gold per week to your party if of course your party decides to bring Tali along. Now, Tali is of course in a rivalry with Baranon Whiteharrow, as I mentioned earlier in the video. If Baranon is with the party, Tali wants nothing to do with any of them, and vice versa. So there's a bit of headbutting going on there, a bit of rivalry and tension that you can play within your game. All 5 of these NPC allies can be found in the description down below. You can download their stat block, their history, and use them in your game. Go on, take them, have a blast, and let me know how it goes down in the description below. There are 5 more, of course, for your viewing pleasure over on Patreon. For just as little as $1, you can get this guide and all of the other Lunch Break Heroes guides to download and keep forever. If you don't want to do that, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and click the subscribe button down below so that you don't miss any of our future videos, and we'll see you next time.